Welcome to today's explainer. Look, if you're an experienced professional who's been endlessly submitting job applications only to be met with absolute soul-crushing silence, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to completely shift gears. We're moving away from that demoralizing cycle of self-doubt and jumping straight into empowered clinical troubleshooting. We are going to start looking at your resume not as some magical reflection of your self-worth, but as a system. And you know what the great thing about systems is? They can be fixed. Let's just start with the raw emotional reality of the modern job search. You've sent 40 applications out into the void. Honestly, maybe it's closer to 80 by now, right? You spent hours painstakingly tailoring cover letters, filling out those incredibly redundant online forms, and hitting submit, just hoping that this time, your decades of hard-earned experience will finally get recognized. You put in the work. You followed all the rules. And what's the response? Zero. Absolutely zero interviews. Either you get this deafening silence or you get an automated rejection email that pops into your inbox so incredibly fast, you know for a fact no actual human being could have possibly read your resume. It is wildly frustrating and it feels deeply personal, but I promise you, it is. So the crucial point is this. The silence is not a verdict on your worth. It's a diagnostic signal. When a resume gets zero interviews, it is failing at one or more of exactly 5 specific identifiable points. Think of it literally like a mechanical error code popping up on your car's dashboard. Every single one of these failure points is known, and more importantly, every single one is completely fixable once you know exactly what to look for. Here is our agenda for today's 5-point diagnostic. We'll start with why the silence is a signal, then dive into Insight 1, the machine layer, Insight 2, age signals, and Insight 3, the persuasion layer, before wrapping it all up with a 30-minute self-diagnostic. All right. Part 1, the silence is a signal. Let's talk about navigating the information vacuum. The absolute core problem with the modern hiring process is this information vacuum. When your resume fails, the system is exceptionally cruel because it gives you absolutely zero feedback. You don't get a helpful error message saying your resume couldn't be parsed or that you missed 7 crucial keywords. Because of this, candidates naturally just start to guess. We rewrite our summaries, we add more dense text, more years of experience, and more jobs. But guessing usually makes things significantly worse because adding all that extra fluff actually amplifies the exact failure points you're trying to avoid. That brings us perfectly to Insight 1, the machine layer, which covers points 1 and 2. Okay, let's dive into this. Before a human being ever even lays eyes on your resume, it's got to pass through the software, specifically Applicant Tracking Systems, or ATS. Point 1 is ATS parse failure. If you're using multi-column layouts, tables, fancy headers, or embedded graphics, the software parser completely scrambles your data. You can actually self-test this right now. Copy your entire resume text, paste it as plain text into a blank document, and read it top to bottom. If it looks like a jumbled mess or is missing your contact info, well, that's exactly what the software sees. And a scrambled mess doesn't get an interview. Now, point 2 is keyword mismatch. Even if your resume parses beautifully, the system is actively scanning for specific skills. For example, if the job description specifically asks for project management and your resume says you ran initiatives, the system might just completely miss the match. You can do a simple side-by-side highlight self-check for this. Highlight every hard skill in the job posting and make sure that exact terminology is actually on your resume. And look, this is absolutely not about keyword stuffing or making things up. It's simply about matching your very real experience to the specific language the employer is actively searching for. Moving right along to Insight 2, age signals. Let's look at point 3. Okay, so you clear the machine layer, but now human psychological barriers come into play. These often feel like normal, honest resume details, but they are actually point 3 age signals. Things like graduation years on your degrees, listing a massive 25 to 30-year full work history when only the last 10 to 15 years are actually relevant, naming legacy tech, or even relying on that classic heavily bordered resume template from 2003. These details allow a reader to estimate your age in a matter of seconds, which can trigger an unconscious screen out before your incredible accomplishments even land. Now, I want to be incredibly clear on this mindset shift. Your experience is a massive asset. The system is the problem, not you. Let me repeat that. The system is the problem. Reducing these age signals is definitely not about hiding your experience or pretending to be younger than you are. It is purely about removing arbitrary triggers. You want to present your strongest, most relevant recent years with absolute full force, so the reader encounters your immense value first, without getting a free shortcut to a number. Which leads us to Insight 3, the persuasion layer.
covering points 4 and 5.
All right, you've cleared the machines and you're navigated the age screens. A human is actually taking you seriously. Now you have to prove your impact. And this brilliantly illustrates point 4, using vague duties instead of quantified outcomes. Honestly, this is the most common content failure across all ages. Saying you were responsible for managing the sales team just describes a generic job description. But stating you led a 12-person team to 34% growth, that proves impact. Run the so what test on every single bullet point you have. If a line just says what you were responsible for without showing the actual result, it's failing to persuade. Remember, recruiters skim, but hard numbers and tangible results, those actually stop the eye.
Finally, we have point 5, wrong targeting. Sometimes your resume is perfectly written, but it still gets rejected because of a seniority mismatch. Think about it. If a 20-year executive sends the resume for a mid-level individual contributor role, the recruiter instantly assumes you'll be too expensive, you'll be bored, or you'll be gone in 6 months. The document isn't broken. The aim is. You absolutely have to align your applications with the level your resume actually demonstrates. Let's wrap things up with Section 5, the 30-minute self-diagnostic. It's time to diagnose, fix, and redeploy. Let's move to and see how this all builds together. Here is your highly empowering, systematic 30-minute self-diagnostic. Grab a timer, spend 5 minutes on the plain text parse test. 8 minutes doing a side-by-side keyword audit against a target job description. 5 minutes hunting down and eliminating unnecessary dates and age signals. 8 minutes applying the so what test to rewrite vague duties into highly quantified outcomes. And finally, 4 minutes reviewing your recent applications to ensure your targeting isn't fundamentally broken. Methodically eliminating these 5 points is exactly how you break the silence.
Now, doing all of this by hand absolutely works, but let's be real, it takes time and a pretty trained eye. If you want to bypass the manual work entirely, there's a tool out there called Pass the Scan that automates this entire clinical diagnostic. You just upload your document, and it instantly scans for ATS compatibility, flags the exact age-revealing signals hurting experienced professionals, checks your keyword language against employer searches, and actually helps turn your vague duties into solid proof of impact. It completely removes the guesswork, which is a total game changer.
Ultimately, the silence you've been getting is not a referendum on your career or your worth. It's just a mechanical, fixable signal. You now understand the machine layer, the age signals, and the persuasion layer. You have the exact roadmap in your hands to eliminate the errors that have been holding you back. So my final question to you is this. Are you ready to stop guessing, start diagnosing, and finally break the silence? Get to work and go show them the massive asset you truly are.